promoting yourself, or how to prepare to present your resume, your portfolio, things of that sort, and get all your ducks in a row before you start reaching out to potential customers, clients, and companies. So this is part 2 of our guide to freelancing sequence, which you will find in the Road to Freelance track. So again, I'm reorganizing the Turbo platform to organize all the content into distinct tracks depending on where you are in your development sort of education. So if you're a beginner, the intro to development track is right for you. And these tracks consist of projects that are appropriate for your level. So it's all very project based. So um, in the intro to development track, we create a series of projects that are good for beginners, like a portfolio site, things like that. In this Road to Freelance track, which is where this video will end up, this is more for people who want to become freelance contract engineers and do what I did for the past 6 years, which is work as a contract developer for startups and in other businesses, small businesses. So that's it. So that's where this series will end up, and hopefully you'll find it useful. So in this part, we're going to talk about what you need to do to prepare to promote yourself as a contract engineer. Um, in part 1, we talked about the 2 tracks: startup and excuse me, let me just get rid of this, conventional. So in this video, we're going to talk about what you need to do before you reach out to companies. So just like in part 1, this does break down into the 2 tracks, and each track has a different strategy involved. So in the conventional track, you actually, let me start with this way. But there are consistencies no matter which track you decide. So let's begin with that first. Number 1, you have to have actual working projects to showcase your skills. So actual working deployed projects. This is the most important thing. Um, uh, Too often people submit just like a GitHub repo, or just like a list of projects with no links on their resume. And this might be okay for non-contract engineers. So like if you're applying for a full-time role at a bigger company like Amazon or whatnot, that might be a good strategy. But in a freelance environment, that won't work. You're not going to get clients that way. It's going to be very hard to get clients that way, because you have to remember, oftentimes your client won't be a technical person, so they won't be able to evaluate you on your GitHub repo, or the whatever stack you used based on like a list of projects on your resume without an actual link. So if there's no link to a deployed project, that's number 1. You got address that right away. I think a good number is anywhere between 3 and 5 projects would be a good amount. So 3 to 5 projects, working projects. You want to have a good breadth of projects to show a good base of skills. So each project should be showcasing essentially a different skill. So for example, in the conventional track, that usually boils down to different industries. So let's say you want to freelance for retail stores, uh, uh, fitness places like personal gyms, or maybe personal trainers, and lawyers. So you want to have a sample website for each one of those. And the best way to approach those projects is to look at currently existing websites and look for similarities across multiple websites in one industry. So look up 10 law firms and see where there are similarities across the websites, and make sure that your sample website accentuates those similarities, because basically what that means is those are the aspects that are emphasized in that particular industry. Um, and then try to add a few more things that maybe you don't see as much. Like for example, on like a personal fitness site, maybe add like a feed showing the Yelp reviews, and you probably don't see that as much right now. Um, and that'll be a good feature you can add. So things of that sort. So make sure you have at least 3 to 5 working projects that span a different range of skills. For startups that span, the way you want to uh, sort of accentuate your skills is a little bit different. So you want to accentuate a different technical skill in each project. So you might want to have one project that really showcases like a Google Maps integration, where you can move the map around, and it will reload the feed of, like, I don't know, comments on the left side, whatever you're building, whatever you're working on, and that should be the primary focus of that project, and that would be a good showcase piece, right? Another one should be like a live feed chat and application type of thing, where you have separate topics that you can click into, and then you're entering a room, a chat room with a live feed, and you can create like a live application using maybe Firebase or something like that. That should be its own project. Um, and you might want another one showcasing just your UI UX skills. You should really focus on the appearance on that one. By the way, that going back, that brings up another important point. Believe it or not, the primary priority of all of these projects should be the appearance. The appearance has to be good. There's no two ways around it. You are judged on your appearance when it comes to your portfolio. This is very, very important. Um, it's, um, well, it's probably equally true in both regards, startup and the conventional track. When I was contracting with startups, I had gotten more than a couple of contracts strictly based on the aesthetic appearance of my apps when I was doing pure iPhone apps. Um, a lot, a lot of beginner programmers are just not aware of how bad their projects look, and unfortunately, even if the underlying technology is very sophisticated, like maybe you're using React Redux with Firebase for a live update feed, if it looks terrible, it's going to leave a negative impression. And you know, even though the project technically is sophisticated and really utilizes a lot of hard skills, your prospective client may or may not know that, and so you're being judged on your appearance. Um, and that's an important consideration when freelancing. This is not as important for full-time roles like that. This won't happen at Amazon or Google. They're not going to decline you because your project looked bad. That's just not going to happen. They'll decline you on other reasons because you failed the algorithm test or whatever. But in startups and in conventional freelancing, the appearance of your work will be the first impression and the strongest impression. Um, a couple days ago on one of my YouTube videos, a user left a comment, a rather negative comment, saying, like, you think you're such a good developer, your website doesn't look very sophisticated. It looks like an old school, like, 90s website. I'm not going to punch it up because I don't want the user's name to show up, but his point was that, or her point was that, I can't be very good at my job because my website doesn't look very nice. Now, obviously, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand that I built the entire platform upon which you can deploy full stack websites on a serverless environment. I don't have to justify myself to this person, but my point is, um, I was being judged on aesthetic criteria, and that does happen more than you realize in freelancing, in the contract world. So you have to be prepared for that. So make sure your primary focus on your sample portfolio projects is the aesthetic, and make sure it looks nice. This is very, very important. Um, uh, and for standard contracting, so small businesses, lawyers, personal trainers, doctors, things like that, that's pretty much the most important thing. And then making sure your sample projects contain the key elements that you see in most of the other websites across the industry. So maybe for like like a personal trainer, there is a booking section where you can book a block of sessions with that personal trainer, um, and make sure you build that in, um, if you're trying to attract that clientele. Okay. For startups, again, going back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, it's more about making sure each project showcases a specific skill that most startups want. Most startups, I would say like 95%, their list of requirements can be boiled down to a handful of things that every startup needs, like user registration, authentication, login password type of thing, an email notification upon sign up. So maybe create a landing page with a user password login that triggers an email automatically. And it could be a totally fake service. It doesn't matter. It's just meant to showcase that you can do this pretty easily. Image upload. So maybe create like an image upload page where there's an entire chat room that consists of only images, maybe, right? So everything is like an animated GIF or something like that, and it's all live feed, right? And that'll showcase your ability to do image upload in conjunction with a live feed, and that's it. And that'll be a good showcase piece as long as it looks nice, right? Um, and these are features that every startup wants. These features, by the way, are not quite as important for the standard track, right? So again, depending on which track you pursue, you have to make sure you attack it the right way. Otherwise, you'll be you're showcasing the wrong things. Like you don't want to create a live chat feed application to sell to a pizzeria, right? Or to a bar in Manhattan. You'll just be showcasing the wrong skills, right? And going back to my video one, selecting a track, one of the most common beginner mistakes is to conflate the two tracks, not even realize that there's a distinction in these two, and um, accentuate the skills in one area that really belong in the other area. So the most common example is building like a full stack Node, React, Redux, Express application on DigitalOcean with a Mongo database for like a dentist. That's way too much, and this is a common beginner mistake, is to conflate the two tracks. So make sure you don't do that. Um, so a good example of like a showcase piece might be like, here, if you click on this, go to my website and you click on this link right here, the apps, and most of these sample projects are serviceable showcase pieces. So if you click on, let's say this one, Village Vintage, and over here where it says View Staging, you click on that, right? This is a fake e-commerce store for vintage goods and items like hats and trinkets and things like that. This store doesn't exist. It's a sample project I built just for for a showcase piece, and that's it. This is good enough, right? This is good enough to bring to local retail stores wherever you may live and say, hey, I looked at your website. Um, I saw that you haven't updated it in 5 years. You could use a facelift. If you think this is something more in line with what your store should look like, then I'd love to build it for you, and we can discuss a rate. So yeah, this is one good example. Let's try another one here. So if you go to the tutorials here, whoops. Yeah, let's go find the restaurant tutorial. Restaurant website, and click on this. You know what? This isn't the best way. I'm sorry. Click on apps, and then click on community, right? And I'm going to be on the first one, and then I have a bunch of tutorial projects. Click on the trendy restaurant right here, and then click on the staging link again. So here is a base template for a trendy restaurant in New York City, right? And this is a simple project that I'm putting together for a restaurant in the city, and it looks nice. Now, from a technical perspective, it's not very complicated. I'm not using React. I'm not using any kind of client-side front-end framework like Vue or anything like that. It's just regular Node Express and then some templating with Mustache, and that's it. And even that's kind of pushing the envelope, right? So really the focal point is the appearance, right? I want to make sure it looks nice, and that's it. And that's pretty much enough for this type of clientele, the standard track. So make sure you understand that with your portfolio pieces. That is, I cannot overemphasize how important that is. Going back to my iOS days, I had to build a couple iOS projects strictly for the purpose of showcase pieces. And this also goes back to deciding which track you want to pursue, startup versus standard. So what happened was I had been working with startups for, at this point, for about 2 or 3 years. So this takes us to about 2015 or so. And, I'd begun to realize at that point, like, just about every startup I've worked with, which is only a handful at that point, but they'd all gone out of business. And I was unable to showcase my work because the apps were no longer in the App Store. The company didn't exist anymore. So I found myself in a sort of a tough spot one summer when I was like, oh no, I got like this other company just went under, and my app that I built for them no longer is accessible. So I need to start building projects just for the explicit purpose of having something to show. And so that's what I did. And I built one project, or I built actually 3, but I'm going to show you one right now. The lighting here is tough, so let me see if this will make it any easier to see. So let's try that. So here's one project I built strictly to show. So if you see that animation, and let me try it this way. I'll try this angle instead. The lighting is causing a glare, so I need to try a different angle here. Okay, so if you look at when I scroll up very closely, you'll see that the circles on the you see how they sort of decelerate into place, right? And that's a strictly a UI consideration that I did to make it look nice. If you look at this right here, watch what happens. You see how the window bounced a little bit? You see how it bounces horizontally? These are UI considerations that I carefully considered to try and impress a potential client who at that point didn't exist. I just needed something to show. This is very hard to do from this angle. But if you click on this right here, you see how the animations slide in and out. And then if I click on a particular profile, watch what happens. Watch what happens when I slide up. You see what happens to the profile picture? And then when I slide down, it comes back. And then if I keep on sliding down, watch what happens to the profile picture. You see it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then when I let go, you see the entire profile picture. And then I go back. Now this app was written 3 years ago. So I wrote that app 3 years ago. And it actually kind of holds up from a UI standpoint. It actually still looks pretty good. But the point is 3 years ago, those were like sort of almost cutting edge animations. Like those were like very sophisticated. And I had to build that. It took me about 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks to build that. A lot of time, 20 hours a week, while I was contracting with someone else. And I had to devote a considerable amount of time to make all that look nice and sophisticated and fancy. Because I knew if I didn't have anything else, it would be tougher to get more gigs down the road. And that was the only reason I built that. And every profile you saw on that window are people I know personally, and I just asked them to sign up so that I have some stuff to show, and that's it. And I have 2 more apps where I did the same thing. So I built 3 apps, no client work whatsoever. I just had to get some stuff out there so that I can get some business in the door. Now, that app in particular I showed you for a reason, because that one did very well for me from a contract standpoint. The people I sent that to all got back to me saying, "Hey, that one looks really nice. I'd like you to build this, on our app on a contract basis." So that one's been paying dividends for a while, and that's what you have to really think about is you want to create a few showcase pieces that you can kind of come back to. Say, look at this, I built this. Um, Ideally, it should be an actual assignment that you were paid for. But even if it's not, like I just showed you one that I didn't get paid for, it's something I built on my own. If it's something you're doing on your own, just really focus on the appearance and make it look really nice and sophisticated and modernized kind of. And that'll be something you can sort of just point back to down the road as a freelance engineer. These are the things you have to really think about as a contract engineer, um, because you're basically always in sales mode. You're just always in sales. You're promoting yourself, always taking meetings with potential clients and trying to sell your skills and services. Like that's just a perpetual state of a contract engineer. So you have to understand that going in as well. Um, so those are some important considerations when preparing to reach out to people and potential clients. Another thing is to have a couple um, form letters ready to go. So I think I had 3 form letters ready to go. Just always, I can just pull it up, email it out, and then move on to the next one. I had 3. I had one for iOS. I had one for front end, just pure front end, and one for full stack. Because I found that these 3 were the easiest for me to get contract wise, and you want to just have them ready to go, where all you gotta do is swap out the name and then email it off to and the email address and email it off to wherever you found it. So AngelList, Craigslist, whatever. So I think I have 2 of them right here. So let me find. Yeah, here we go. So here are 2 that I used a couple years ago. So I used these in 2015 and 16. I shouldn't just leave my number and stuff on here. It doesn't really matter. I don't think anyone's going to call me. But so I sent these out. This is the iOS letter. And this is a general letter for full stack developers. And these are usually on Craigslist or AngelList. AngelList. And I would just send these out. And that's it. And you want to. And the important thing about these letters are you want to have a bullet point of features or skills. Now, this letter in particular is for startups. So, like I was saying earlier, you want to accentuate certain skills that every startup wants. And these are very like startup-y skills. Bullet points are always good. A wall of text is not good. Bullet points is what you want. Just bullet points. And then you have a handful of projects, and that's it. And just explain kind of how you built this and how you did that, and then that's it. And that you want to just have those ready, and then obviously in your case it's going to be personal projects if you're just getting started. But even there, just say you don't have to mention it's a personal project. Just say I built this in Node Express, whatever, and then send that off, right? These are the important things. Now, these letters perform reasonably well for me, and I'll include those letters inside the downloadable package on this video. So you can use that if you want. I really don't care. I'm not contracting anymore, but you want to just have those ready. And at the early stages, you want to basically have like a shotgun approach. Just you want to email out 5 to 10 a day, every day, just all the time. You want to do that at first to see what kind of responses you're getting, and then tweak your letter accordingly. What you should understand is that this letter, these 2 letters right here, these aren't the first letters I put together. This is an evolution of a lot of letters that I found to get better and better responses over time. So over time, I would decide that okay, this isn't doing so well. I need to add more projects here. I need to showcase these skills here. And over time, I came down to a template that that delivered the most consistently good results. And by that I mean maybe out of 10 emails I send out, I'll get like 5 or 6 replies, and the other 4 just don't get back to me. And then that would lead to a phone, 5 or 6 phone calls, and then that would lead to maybe half of those are in-person interviews. And then once you get the in-person interview from there, that's a whole separate, essentially a whole separate video, which I'll get to. But at first it wasn't like that. At first it was like I would send out 20 letters and I might get 1 or 2 replies. So the percentage got better and better and better over time as my skills got better and I knew what to accentuate. I knew how to promote myself. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at in this video right here. So you want to have a couple of those ready, depending on which track you're pursuing. So again, this letter that I just showed you over here is for the startup track, because that's what I've done for 5 or 6 years. But for the standard track, it's pretty simple. You want to get all these things out of here, and you want to replace it with like, here are the features I can build for you, like a mailing list integration, a checkout form, a booking form. Like, it's more about the features and then how it'll save the client money in these areas and stuff like that. So you can tell here, like this letter would perform very poorly if I used it to try and solicit standard clients who are running a small business. This letter would do nothing for me. So this is more for the startup track. So understand the distinction between the two. Just making sure I have all my notes here. So, and one more thing in terms of preparation is you also want to have, obviously, your resume, right? So everyone has a resume and probably a GitHub profile, but you also want to have an online resume, an actual website that shows your resume. So if you go back to the Apps tab on Turbo and you click on Standard Resume, here's a project that's basically just a standard resume website. So if you click on the staging link, you'll see a standard resume of one of my developers on Turbo. And this is good enough for having your resume website. Now you want to have this for a particular reason. You want to link to this in your emails that you send out so that you can track how those emails perform by using Google Analytics in here and just checking the Google Analytics tab to see how many hits you get and how long they stay on the page. It's very important how long they stay on the page, and if they click on any of these links, then that gives you very good feedback that you can't get from a PDF resume. So that's a very important thing to understand. So these resume websites, pretty easy to build. In fact, you could even just clone this one right here. If you just go here and go to the bottom, you have to be registered on Turbo, but after that it's free. You just put in your, a name for your site. So Dan Kwan resume. Click the clone button, and then that'll be a deployed project for you on Turbo, and you can just swap out the details with your own details. And I'll show you how to do. I think I have another video where I showed exactly how to do that. This one already looks pretty nice, so you can just use this if you want. And I have another one here. Right here. If you like this template better, feel free to use this one instead. Same idea, right? But again, the point is that you want to use this to track what kind of activity you get, because if you're getting, let's say, 25 hits in a day on your resume after sending out a bunch of emails and whatnot, and then the session duration is 5 seconds with no subsequent clicks, you have a problem. You now know, okay, I need to address the site. I got to get better projects on there. I got to figure out why the retention is so bad on my resume website. And that gives you tremendous feedback as to what to accentuate and how to get your projects showcased properly, how to pick which projects. So you can just swap out a different project and see if that gives you any clicks. And you get better and better at knowing what to promote about yourself. Using this resume, sort of a resume website template like this, as opposed to just a PDF file. Obviously, you should also have a PDF resume. I'm not saying it's one or the other. You want both. And what you want to do is direct as much traffic to your resume website as you can, and then have a download link right here where they can access your PDF resume, and then that'll give you great sort of feedback in terms of who's viewing your site for how long, things of that sort. Very, very important, because without the feedback, you don't know what you're doing right and wrong. And you're going to find once you send out letters, applying, trying to get, contracts and whatnot, you're not going to get much feedback. People don't have time for that, and that's just the reality of the world. Like, you're not going to get any real input as to why you didn't get a call back, why you didn't get an offer. It'd be pretty rare if you did, and if you did, you should be very thankful for it. But most of the times you won't, and that means it's on you to set up mechanisms and systems through which you can get better feedback. So going back to one of my earlier points, which is, send shotgun out these letters, right? Just take a shotgun approach and send out maybe 100 of these emails in 1 week, right? And then that's enough data points to figure out whether or not it's working. Let's say you send out 100 emails in a week, right? What is that, like 15 a day or something like that? And after 2 weeks of that, 2 weeks after that, so let's say the next 2 weeks you don't do anything. If you get no responses, it's time to adjust. You need to tweak the letter. You need to figure out what, a different set of bullet points. You got to figure out a different set of projects to accentuate, or maybe you just need better projects. That's probably the most common answer. You just need better projects. And then you got to go back to the drawing board and work on some better projects. That's the most common answer. But the point is, that's why you do a shotgun approach. It's not really a spray and pray approach, right? It's more like I just need some data. I need to see what's working and what's not, so that I can adjust. And that's where people really stumble at the early stages. One of the most common early mistakes of really everybody, people, engineers, and startups, is they try to wait until everything's perfect. I gotta do this and that and that and that, and the next thing you know, it's taking you 3 months. A very common scenario where this occurs is where a person is building a portfolio project that's doing way too much because they want to build like the most awesome portfolio project that can do everything. SMS integration with Twilio, file upload, live chat, like some sort of cryptocurrency integration in the background, like whatever, right? And they're doing too much, and they're taking forever to get it out the door. And then next thing you know, 3, 4, 5 months have gone by. They still haven't applied to a job, and that's really not the way to go about this. Right? That's the wrong way. You want to build smaller, bite-sized, granular projects that showcase 1 or 2 really important skills, and then move on to the next one and start getting the letters out. Wait till you get to 3 projects, because just 1 isn't going to do it, but 3 is a good number, and then start getting input. And it won't be direct input. It won't be people saying, hey, you need to work on this, that. That will not happen unless you're lucky. You need to read between the tea leaves. You need to figure out, how many responses are you getting. That's a very good indication of the quality of your outreach. And then, how long do they stay on your website, your resume website. That's why you want to have a resume website, so you can track those numbers with Google Analytics. It's not just so you have a resume website, which doesn't hurt, but that's not the key reason. You need to track the activity. So let's see here. That pretty much covers the main things. Yeah, okay, so that covers my main points about preparation before you do. This is all before you do your outreach. In the next video, I will discuss the actual outreach process, and I'll literally go through a couple examples. I might even just apply to a couple myself, just to show you what I used to do, and I'll go literally step by step. This is, go to this website and go to this one, find these keywords, and then what kind of responses to expect and how to handle them. So that'll be part 3, which is going to be called finding leads, and yeah, that's it. So hopefully you got some good input on this video, some good information from this video. And if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to reach me on Turbo, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. If you do want to reach me, my email is dclonic. So that's my email. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. This template letter will be in the actual download package of this guide to